Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Context is King. I'm Rebecca Brayton, and with me as always is WatchMojo founder and CEO Ashkan Karbasfrooshan to discuss Andy Ruiz's upset of Anthony Joshua, because that is business.
The way you make it sound like I'm always here is like I don't have work to do, by the way, which is fine. It's kind of true.
Yeah, he's literally always here, and then I just come in and ask him some questions.
I'm basically always talking. Somebody just comes and kind of has a conversation with me. Right.
No, anyway, so Andy Ruiz upset Anthony Joshua at in a fight, and apparently, is this true? He had DM'd the promoter of the fight just so he could fill in because the original opponent had failed drug tests.
So I'm not a big boxing fan. I follow enough sports and play enough sports, but it's interesting more the success stories and all that. So yeah, apparently a year ago he was offered the opportunity to fight, but not for a lot of money, and he didn't take it. And then recently, what happened is the original guy that was supposed to be in the ring failed a drug test. So yeah, he apparently contacted the promoter through Instagram and said, let's go. So, I mean, talk about recognizing an opportunity, seizing the opportunity, and he's now the champ. Are there things like that you're like, man, if this guy was able to find an opportunity, I wish I would have gone for this or gone for that?
Like, yes, but yes. Probably.
Well, I mean, it's obviously like, whether it's you think of Back to the Future or Avengers Endgame, like if you go back, all of the future is different.
I know. That's my thing. Like, if I would change X, then like I wouldn't work here probably, or like so.
You don't need to suck up. But
I'm not. No, legitimately, I'm not sucking up. I suck up to you?
No, you don't, definitely. Somebody in the comments was like, "Oh my God, she's so like harsh on him," and I was like, "Yeah, that's who we want on the team." So it's funny. For that reason, I always go. If I had to kind of say, well, I get to run WatchMojo. I have my lovely wife, my two adorable daughters. So if I could go back in time and like tweak one thing, then I wouldn't really actually do it because of the risk that everything else changes. Although there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, wow, what if this, what if that? And I think that's human nature. But the more interesting part is, so how do you apply that to your life now?
What do you mean?
Like things that you wish you could have done, would have done, but like what's the takeaway you have? Or nothing, you're just like...
Enjoy where you're at.
Okay, that's good. No, that's very good.
That's my takeaway.
That's the work-life play balance. So I love that. But does that make you more prone to go for it if an opportunity comes now? Or are you still lounging, watching Back to the Future and just happy-go-lucky?
Can I say both? No, okay. I think, but I'm also a bit older now, so I think I'm a bit...
You're 25?
Sure. I'm a bit more confident to take those opportunities than I would have been.
Yeah, I find, like I said, this year is the year where I'm like, hey, everything I wanted to do in the past few years, and I always created an excuse or said, oh, the timing's not right. This is the year where I said, no, just go for it. So that manifests itself one way. The other way it manifests itself for me is I have two daughters, 11 and 9. So you and your sister, both of whom work here, I hope I don't put you on the spot. When you were growing up, did your dad ever get people saying to him like, hey, would you like to have a son? Or like you wouldn't, like more like, oh, you must want another child so you could have a son?
I am not aware of him ever having been asked that.
Okay, so because I get that a lot. And the truth is,
how sexist is that?
Look, I'll be honest with you. I've heard also people who have two boys here.
Actually, you know what? I've probably said that.
But it's human nature. So here's the thing. There's very little things that upset me. I have like thick skin. I could show you emails, and this is an upcoming show where I'm going to show you some of my like preferred advisors and industry friends or people who are so harsh on me. And not just because I'm a masochist, but that helps, But it so bothers me when in front of my daughters, people are like, oh, wouldn't you love to have a son or something? And I'm like, no. I'm like, if you look at my daughters, I would take 20 of these. I'm like, I probably don't want any more kids. But the thing that's frustrating is that. So to tie it all together and sports and so we've talked about my neurosis that every time like I watch World Cup and Euro, I'm like, I'm pretty sure if I would have really, but I never go back in time to like when I was 8 and be like, I'm going to start playing soccer or tennis or whatever. I'm like, no, I was never going to put in the work and practice and all that. But where I now see it's changing is I could see that my girls were actually pretty sporty. Like they were very good at gym and soccer, and my older daughter is a star at handball. And I would always hesitate to play sports with them because this is how crazy I am. Because I was like, oh, people are going to see that, and they're going to be like, oh, he wants a son. So I kind of, and then I didn't want them to say it in front of my girls, because then they would be like, oh, Daddy, you don't love us, type of thing. But I know, the levels of craziness is off the charts.
I mean, everybody in this story is crazy, but anyway.
But okay, fair enough. But so that's how it's really changed. I now realize that I'm like, screw that. I'm like, I'm going to play with my kids. I'm going to encourage them. And that's where I realize that I'm like, hey, I love where I'm in life. Wouldn't change a thing. But I'm like, I should encourage my kids, because they're like, otherwise they're just going to be on their, the equivalent of watching TV, like on their iPads, just watching 8 hours of programming. So I feel like where I go in that kind of, how would I do things differently, I start to look at it as both where I am as an entrepreneur and what would I do now that I've come up with excuses, and how I could kind of shift and push my kids towards the things that I maybe wasn't aware of.
Okay.
Make sense, Deep?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, question for you is, let's say at WatchMojo, you have always come up with things we should be doing.
Have I?
You have, well, yes, you have.
Okay.
You haven't.
I don't
Not like, oh, we should do this or that. Do you feel like, are you more prone to suggest those things 13 years in, or are you?
That's a good question, because I would say yes and no. Like I'm not reticent to do it from a confidence standpoint, but I'm more aware of what works, what doesn't, what we're going to do or what we're not going to do. So probably the same, but for different reasons.
Okay, so final question. What's the one thing that you've either articulated or not thus far that you're like, we have to do this now?
This he did not warn me about. So, geez, do you know an answer to this?
No, I would say everything that we talk about on the show is included in that answer. Whether it's the label, whether slowly but surely the Alexander Project, we're going to be shooting something about the WatchMojo charitable efforts. So I think you're seeing it live before your eyes. And I get a lot of people that they're like, wow, like you are so transparent. And they're like, like even discussing why you retained a banker. And I go, there's so much more good that comes out of being transparent and talking about things than the negative. And if last year, when we had our town hall and we did a survey to see, hey, we've tripled the company size, my main takeaway was the employees were just not comfortable in talking and speaking up. Or they would like talk amongst each other, and then based on a lot of like false information, miscommunication, lack of experience, lack of just, intelligent, but like 2 years out of school. So I was like, there is a bit of negative aspect of being transparent to the extent that I am. But I was like, if I don't lead by example and just communicate and just throw everything out there, I can't possibly go to the team and say, why didn't you say something? So
right.
That's, again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of would be a bit of my answer, is what haven't we done that I would like to do? And it's just kind of working on the culture. But I think that's important for any company.
Nonstop. Culture and communication is everything.
Well, what do you guys think? Would you go back and change something in your life? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you next time.